Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. Championship Week Video Notebook, night number 2 officially, I believe. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood, joined by David Griggs, Rocco Miller, John Salika, and John Titella. Full cast here, almost full cast for our Video Notebook. And David Griggs coming to us live again from the Puppet Bunker. David.
I hate the Puppet Bunker.
David,
Chad, I got an idea. Why don't we not do the Puppet Bunker anymore?
It's too late to lock you in there.
Well, you could let me. You could unlock me in here.
Salika, you have the keys?
Nope.
Well,
I don't know.
Get out of here. Stupid championship.
I got a locksmith coming sometime in April. It's okay.
In April? That's not for another 2 months. What month is it? I don't even know.
But this is our video notebook
Puppet
where
Bunker.
we go over everything and anything that's been going on in today's world, I guess, and then we do our review and the preview of conference tournament action. But we like to start off with a little mini Hoops XG report called our news and notes. And couple of things, piece of news and notes, but the first one's got to start with something that happened outside of conference tournaments today, but in a regular season game. And Rocco, I think you watched this game here. Rhode Island had a little bit of trouble with St. Joe's at home tonight.
I had to turn it on at halftime. They were down by 19, and my assumption was that they would rally and get back into the game. And it went the opposite direction. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I think at one point they were down by 36, which is crazy on their senior night. So it just makes me wonder what the heck happened. I wonder if there was something internal or maybe it was just a really bad day. Everybody looked extremely pissed off. So the body language is pretty entertaining. But, maybe it was an anomaly. We'll have to see it over the next week. But I think the biggest damage it does is potentially to St. Bonaventure and to Nevada because for both of those teams, that's their signature win. And the worse that Rhode Island finishes, the worse their resume gets. So I think that's going to be the biggest takeaway from a bracketology standpoint.
I don't know when. I cannot think of a single example because this is the kind of thing you would remember where a like a ranked team, like somebody that's clearly going in on the first ballot, somebody that's clearly in the top half of the bracket, lost by 40 to a team that is – like what 150th in the power rank. I mean, it was the most preposterous result I can ever remember. Ever.
It wasn't 40 points, but in some respects, this did remind me of Syracuse and Boston College from 4 years ago, where BC actually laid quite a decisive victory at the Carrier Dome.
Well,
yeah.
Titel, I think we now see that Rhode Island is very mortal, and it may be a two-bid league a different way than people expected, right?
So since I've gotten off the St. Bonnie's bandwagon and I'm trying to stay off, I want them to win the A10 tourney in D.C. next week. I will be there, so that Rhode Island can make it as an at-large and we get a multi-bid league from this league.
That might be the best way because I think Rhode Island is locked in at this point, and we'll get to our survival board at the end of the show.
But I think the best case scenario for the A10 might be if St. Bonaventure somehow gets an at-large and a team like Davidson were to win the title.
I got one other little piece of news or notes here. I guess I kind of almost blew up Twitter a little bit this afternoon because we found out that they released the actual floor plan for the Conference USA tournament. I want to put this on the screen, though. I think it's on there. Should be coming up right now.
Yeah, it's there.
This is the Conference USA tournament. We'll be talking about this later on in the course of championship weeks here. But they're going to be playing 2 games simultaneously in the same building with a giant curtain in between them. David, how excited are you for a conference that is playing, I think, like YMCA-style basketball?
Well, I don't know what to make it. This is one of those things that I have to say something, but I don't know what to say. Look at this. It's ridiculous, and you just better hope that you buy tickets on the right side of the curtain. I mean, so you can make sure you see the game that you want. Conference USA rather competitive, at least at the top this year with the big 3, Old Dominion, Middle Tennessee, and Western Kentucky. And the only thing I can factor in is that they're trying to just make a mockery of themselves. And one of the things you got to consider with games going on at the same time, I hope it's a soundproof curtain because like whistles and stuff happening on the other end, it could potentially be distracting.
Or how about like, a huge shot and a huge cheer from all those 15 or 20 fans that show up and
Oh boy.
I have a feel this is going to be a disaster, but we'll see.
I mean, I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually quite excited about that.
Actually, one of the things I'm hoping for is if they're starting half an hour apart, I want to see what happens during the second game at the 5-minute mark. If there's a buzzer beater on the other side and half the arena is suddenly exploding.
Or if all the fans just run from one side of the arena to the other and then they got to run back and forth, that could be really entertaining.
The tickets are general admission, from my understanding, or at least a lot of them are. So, and you can go back and forth from each side while the games are going on if you like. So it should be very strange.
No, well, I got it. There's never been anything like it before. I mean, even the Sun Belt had an auxiliary gym. It was at least. This is ridiculous.
So I was trying to figure out exactly what the strategy was, and I guess their strategy would be if you only have 4 hours worth of games instead of 8 hours worth of games, maybe more fans will show up. But outside of that, I don't understand it, and they think maybe they can sell more tickets that way. But it'll be interesting.
Whoever came up with this idea, how were they not laughed out of the room, and much less like everybody else around the table? Oh, good idea. Anyway, okay.
Let's get to the games that were played tonight. The Big South. There's only four games tonight. We had the 8-9, the 7-10 games of the Big South. And John, let me start with you on Sleek. Let me start with you on these. Didn't really see much of games. I was I thought that Charleston Southern Presby might have a chance to be a good one. It really wasn't. Neither of them really were.
Yeah, I was hoping we weren't going to have a repeat of last year where Charleston had malfunctioning clocks and had to start off the game with a technical, but that might have been a little more preferable, at least as far as having some drama in here, but at least Charleston coasted to an easier win.
Get a good memory. I forgot all about that, but yeah.
Yeah, Longwood was the road team winning at High Point tonight. But Titel, do you see either one of today's winners having any shot in the quarterfinals?
I don't. I think this is going to be – I picked Liberty to win the Big South, and it's still one of my shakiest predictions, but I'm going to stick with them.
The other two games that were played tonight were in the Patriot League. That should be coming up on the screen right about now, where we did see, Rocco, a lot better games. Lafayette getting by American, Loyola coming back to beat Army.
Yeah, I watched a lot of the Army game, and that was disappointing. I was pulling for Army, but unfortunately, Loyola came back and pulled it off. I just don't think Loyola's got the horses to even be on the same floor as Bucknell in the next round. I thought Army, with their shooting and some of their one of their playmakers, they might have given Bucknell a shot, but I don't see much of a sweat for Bucknell in the next round.
Yeah, David, Army had a nice lead actually in the first half. Loyola kind of came back at the start of the second half, and
yeah, they did.
They started to pull away even, but then Army made a late run to hit a couple threes late. That other game, the Lafayette American game, was kind of close the whole way. Lafayette had a small lead and just never let American quite catch them.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the margin was 7, but with about a minute to go, it was still in doubt. Now, again, they got their work cut out of them going, having to go to Colgate. The quarterfinal games, I don't think Bucknell's going to really sweat at all. I don't think Colgate is either. But once you get past that, I mean, Boston U did win at Bucknell earlier in the year, and that's when I made the tweet or whatever it was about how Bucknell was probably the biggest disappointment in all of college basketball, bar none. And I take credit for that being the turning point. That tweet is what resulted in Bucknell turning it around and blowing through the rest of the league.
Well, tonight was kind of like the final calm before the storm, I'd say, with just a couple of 8-9 and 7-10 games. We actually get a little more action tomorrow. Maybe not some great stuff, but we do, for the first time ever, starting a major conference tournament this early. Here's the Big Ten tournament bracket. We discussed it a little bit.
You're going to have to scroll to the. Is the whole thing on the? Maybe it's just not on mine. I can't see tomorrow's games. Okay.
Tomorrow's games, David, if you cannot see them, at 5:30 it's Iowa and Illinois, the 12-13 game. At 8 o'clock it's Minnesota Rutgers in the 11-14 game. Rocco, you weren't with us last night when we discussed this. Let me ask you, what do you like in this entirety of the Big Ten tournament? And do you see anything interesting tomorrow night at all?
Yeah, well, I think tomorrow something interesting is they made Illinois play 4 games in the final week last week, and so this will be their 5th game in 10 days, and so they virtually have no chance to win 5 days in a row. No matter how great of a coach Brad Underwood is, I respect the heck out of that guy based on what he did the last couple of years. But even the greatest coach couldn't get his players up that many days in a row. So their ceiling is probably to get to that Nebraska game. And then in terms of the Minnesota-Rutgers game, my gut says Minnesota just wants this year to be over with, and Rutgers will probably actually steal that game. So I'll pick them
in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll call that a mini upset. For the entire tournament, I think Purdue's been the best team throughout the season, and this is their and they had a couple letdowns towards the end, so I think this is their chance to prove themselves and take the whole tournament.
Since we have everyone here, let me ask a question real quick. Like these bloated conferences that do these ladder formats, at first I didn't think that the Big East was the first conference to roll this out. At least there's been other conferences to use ladders, but none of that size with all the teams in it. And I didn't think the NCAA would like the idea that it went beyond 4 rounds, because most exempt events and conference tournaments technically are exempt, only are limited to 4 games. Do you think that a conference tournament should be limited to 4 rounds?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
I think it kind of takes away the point of having the last 4 teams in if you make them play with their only chance to win 5 games in 5 days. It's just, look at Illinois, for example. They only have 3 guys that come off the bench. I mean, even if they were healthy, they wouldn't have a realistic opportunity to pull that off unless everybody was upset.
And I don't think they're looking for extra money per se, because the puppet showed us what the tickets were selling for last night for the opening round here.
Yeah, well, I tried to, but they tickets are now doubled. They're now going for $6.
Well, I will tell you, though, I mean, we talk about winning 5 games in 5 days. It has been done. I believe that Georgia, 2 of the games were in the same day when they did the SEC.
That wasn't a ladder. That was 4.
That was 4.
Yeah.
That was 4. But UConn did do it back in 2011, I believe, or was it 2004?
Yeah.
UConn did win 5 games in 5 days, and then turned around and won 6 more games and won the NCAA tournament that year. So not only did they win 5 in 5 days, but it didn't really take much out of that team.
Yeah,
so
but I think that they would have won 4 and 4 had it just been the standard. Like had their first game been in the 8-9 game, I think they would have won that. Anyway, just an interesting question. I mean, I was a little shocked that the Big East was allowed to do that, because I thought they would have said, no, you only get 4 games.
Tytel, what do you think? Do you think we should limit to 4?
So I do like the concept of giving the lowest seed a chance to go all the way, because obviously the only way that Iowa is getting into this tournament is, 1, if the ghost of Chris Street comes back and helps them win it all, which I don't think he will, unfortunately, or 2, if they can win 5 games in 5 days by beating the best teams in the league seated ahead of them as they do it. That being said, while I want them to have that chance, I don't know if that penalizes a Michigan State team who's only lost 3 games all year and is on a 12-game winning streak, that they have to worry about playing a hot team with momentum on their side or something.
I'll tell you what, let's turn over to the next conference here. Let's go to Ohio Valley Conference, which has its first round games tomorrow. Stalika, let me ask you, first of all, let's talk about 2 games tomorrow. Tennessee Tech against Edwardsville, Tennessee State against Eastern Illinois. You expecting anything strange and exciting tomorrow?
Not for tomorrow. I could see Tennessee Tech, and I would probably say Tennessee State to win, but I think State possibly has a chance to knock off Austin Peay the following night if they're able to make it that far. But I don't see the winner at the top getting past Jacksonville State.
And David, who do you think wins this whole event?
Murray State. I just really like how they've been playing. I know Murray State and Belmont are in a class about ahead of everyone else. I think either one of them is deserving of it, but I just like how Murray State's been playing recently.
Rocco, you agree?
I like Murray State, yeah. But Belmont, they live and die by the 3. So all it takes is they're gonna each play 2 games as long as they win in the semis. So anything could happen in that one night. But I have to pick Murray State. I think they're a better team.
Tytel, can you tell these guys who's coaching at Jacksonville State and what he does in the postseason?
Ray Harper. He was with Kentucky Wesleyan for 6 years. He made the D2 title game each of the 6 years. And he goes to Oklahoma City in the NAIA, makes the title game 3 straight years. If he can win a few games as the defending champ, who's 3-1 against the Bruins and the Racers, in a conference tourney where none of the past 4 champs were top 2 seed, he's going to make his 4th NCAA tourney in 7 years. Jacksonville State is the pick to repeat.
Thank you. Jacksonville State is going to win it. And the best part, though, David, about this entire conference is the fact that the Ohio Valley Conference, you got a little news about them and where they're playing the tournament and who their sponsor is, I believe.
Yeah, they're playing it. Well, it's the Ohio Valley Conference, which has no teams in the state of Ohio. No one really in the Ohio Valley. They're playing the conference tournament in Evansville, Indiana. There are no Ohio Valley Conference teams, not just in the city of Evansville, but in the entire state of Indiana. And it's being sponsored by Myrtle Beach, which I'm just going to stop.
Let's just stop and let's go over to the only other conference.
Hey, but at least they're not using a curtain.
Only other conference in action tomorrow, these may be some of the best games of the day tomorrow, is in the Northeast, quarterfinal game. And David, let's just start by circling that 4-5 game there, the Battle of Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's a blackout. They're already – I mean, this is a pretty bitter rivalry. It's a fun rivalry. With the slot machine came up all 7s, and they're going to play in the conference tournament. This is why I love campus sites, because it not only does it reward and protect the better teams, but it's better environments. This is going to be a fun environment. It's going to be sold out. The students are, I think, already lining up. It's going to be awesome.
There it is. It's circled and highlighted. This conference does reseed. You see a little gap there. That's because they do reseed after the quarterfinal round. The other games tomorrow: Wagner, Central Connecticut, Mount St. Mary's, Robert Morris, SFPA, Fairleigh Dickinson. Rocco, you see any upsets tomorrow night in any of those 3?
I'm counting on it. This is always a league with upsets. Out of the 4 games, I think we'll definitely see one. Hard to say which place it will be from. I'll go with Robert Morris as the upset team tomorrow. Mount St. Mary's has been all over the place, and Robert Morris has lost a lot of games, but they've stayed high in the predictive metrics compared to the rest of the league. So it shows me that they are pretty efficient. So I think that's got the highest likelihood. But I do think it will be Wagner against SFPA in the final, although anything could happen.
Do you think who would you think did you have winning it?
Yeah, I'll stick with the preseason pick. I'll go with the Red Flash.
All right. David, you agree?
I like Wagner the best, but that's not who I'm picking. It just dawned on me that I've picked all number 1 seeds. We've seen some turmoil in this one before. And I am going to go way, way, way out on a limb and say this is with my heart, not my head. But after this year, there will only be 3. I'm going with St. Francis Brooklyn.
Going with St. Francis Brooklyn. That's a bold pick. I kind of like it a little bit, but it's I wouldn't put any money on it because you got a lot of tough...
we have a couple things have to happen. They have to win tomorrow. I don't think they'll win the tournament if they don't win tomorrow. And then in order to host a semifinal game, there's got to be we've got to have the opposite of chalk.
John T., who's your pick to win this?
So the smart money is to say St. Francis and just stop after that and see if you can get 2 for 1. But the smart pick is Wagner. Why? Because they are the definition of a home court hero. Outside Staten Island, 8-8. At the Spiro Sports Center, 14-0.
I'm with you. I'm taking Wagner. Sleeka, let me just ask you too. I don't think I got your pick on this league.
I definitely cannot say Mount St. Mary's, especially when you're paired with Robert Morris. That screams upset special. But at the same time, I think Fairleigh Dickinson is another team that can also upset St. Francis, PA. So clearly I cannot choose the wine in front of them. So I think I will go ahead with Wagner.
So you're picking a 6 and a 7 upset there.
Yeah, which would mean St. Francis Brooklyn is hosting the semifinal game in that wonderful venue of theirs. I love that arena. It's one of my favorite Div 1 arenas. It's on the second floor of it's awesome.
Let's go ahead and take a look at our survival board now. That is it for the games that are scheduled for tomorrow, but we can go ahead and take a look at our NCAA tournament survival board. And let's start by, this is on our website. You can just go right up there and click on the NCAA tournament survival board tab. David, can you explain to everybody what this board means? Bold, under, italics, normal text, all that nonsense?
Yes, well, let me begin, and we should have done this at the top of the show. It's just been kind of hectic. We've moved to a new server. We forgot. I would like to welcome the 10 members of the selection committee who are watching. And again, this is a tool for you. It basically tells them what they need to be doing, and it highlights everything. Now, there's 333 teams on this board, but there's 4 different classifications. One is like a lock. That just means that even if this team loses the rest of the games, the committee needs to take them. We're telling that. We're telling the committee that that's who they need to be taking. The automatic bigs are actually locks in all caps. We don't have any of those yet, but the locks are in bold. Teams that you need to be looking at. Maybe you take them, maybe you don't. They're in italics. And the teams that are, we call it losing your screw, that are in normal font, that's going to be about all of them. They're just in regular type. So those are the 4 different categories. And the committee comes here. They have access to the internet in the room, so they log on to this page, and then they know what to do.
Well, this was where we were heading into tonight here with the 333 teams left. Let's update as to what happened as of tonight. We'll get a quick update here through the Magic, and we're down to 329.
Yeah, 329. And if you scroll down a little bit there, Chad, you see the Atlantic Sun, only 4 teams left. Those 4 games were yesterday. And then if you keep going down to the big who played tonight? Yeah, the Patriot League in the Big South. They're down to 8 instead of 10. So Longwood no longer there. The committee now knows not to select Longwood.
No, Longwood won tonight.
Longwood would do it.
They're still there. High Point is no longer there.
Oh, okay. So the committee can select Longwood, but they shouldn't because they're not italics. So
but you see, Longwood could be the winner there. But now, we're saying here, like Nebraska, they can actually think about them.
Yeah, they can.
I don't know why they would, but we're
they should. I think Nebraska is a lock, but
on the other hand, Ohio State is in no matter what. No matter what,
the committee will take them.
Okay. Let's go ahead and pull that down also. And
it's a big responsibility. Like, what if you were to bold Longwood by mistake? The committee would select them. So it's very important we keep accurate on that.
Now, this is our Championship Week video notebooks. We like to do some fun things during the course of our video notebooks. We've called Mark Emmert before. We've had all kinds of fun stuff. We have a lot of fun stuff planned ahead this week. But we have one thing we want to do every night here at the end of each of our shows. We're going to have a little trivia contest where we have a bunch of trivia questions that I have in envelopes here. I'm going to choose one of these envelopes. I'm going to ask the question to the panel, kind of get your thoughts on the answer. Then we'll look in the envelope, reveal the actual answer.
Okay.
So this
is much better than the mailbag. I hated the mailbag.
Yeah, this is better than David's mailbag, or I guess David somehow got us to veto that mailbag. That was kind of fun last year. But this is tonight's trivia question. It kind of plays into both to Army, and if you're watching the show, you may even know the answer to this question because it was actually mentioned already, I think. It says there are 4 schools that have been members of Division I since its inception and never made the NCAA tournament. 3 of these are the Citadel, William & Mary, and Army, who lost tonight. Name the 4th. The answer is to that one.
Well, and it's kind of crazy that this, when you look at a school like St. Francis Brooklyn, they don't play in a rough conference, but they've had some really good programs. They've been around since 1939. They have a huge home court advantage. They have a strong recruiting base and a decent history, but it's just kind of wild that they've never made the tournament there.
Is that what we think the answer is? Well, let me throw it to everybody else. John, Titel, Slika, Rocco.
It was part of my conference tourney preview, so I don't know that I have a bit of an advantage, but it is St. Francis.
Okay. Well, David, everyone says the answer is St. Francis then?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, let's check out the answer here. I'm sorry, everybody. No.
What?
The answer is Duke. It says it right
Oh,
here.
I knew that. I knew that.
As we know, Duke is a team that has never made the NCAA tournament before. So,
yeah, I knew that. I was about to say that. And again, it's kind of crazy when you stop and think about it. What a strong history that program has to never make it.
they've never made it. So again,
Well, they're locked in this year. Maybe they'll make it this year.
so there's the answer. But on that note, let's head to some final thoughts. Rocco, let me start out with you.
Yeah, going back to the Big South tournament, I had a final thought about a team that dominated tonight, the Buccaneers of Charleston Southern. If you look back in their last 9 or 10 games, this team has been red hot. Their only losses were by 2 at Gardner-Webb and an overtime loss to UNC Asheville. They closed out the season with a surprising road win against Winthrop. I think the game, I guess it's on Thursday, against UNC Asheville is going to be a great game. I know they have to play them on their home floor, but they've got the confidence and the way they're playing right now, the ability to win that game, I think. So that will be my upset special of this week is Charleston Southern over Asheville, our first 1 seed out on Thursday night.
All right. Stalika.
I know we usually don't like to talk NIT during the shows, but it does serve as a test kitchen for possible rule changes coming up for the following season. So some examples include widening of the key, resetting the shot clock to 20 seconds in the event of an offensive rebound. And yes, wait for it, 4 quarters, Puppet.
No.
Nobody watches the NIT anyway, Titel.
I do.
So our good friend LeBron James was in the news the other day for calling the NCAA a corrupt organization. Says he's not sure if he wants his 2 sons to play basketball in college. He thinks we should pump up the G League. Even if he's right, I don't know where he has the chutzpah to go after any corrupt organization. This is a guy whose mother, while he was in high school, bought him a $50,000 Hummer because she got a loan based on his future earning value or something. So even though he was technically, it was okay and he was allowed to play, I don't know where he gets off calling anybody corrupt. Even if they are corrupt, which they are to a certain extent, like, I don't know why he's weighing in on this. Like,
I think you should have maybe played 1 college game before you can comment on that.
Thank you.
1 would have been nice. But David, I'm going to jump in with my final thought before I go to you, because last night you completely screwed up the final thoughts and we lost mine.
I did,
I'm
yes.
going to repeat mine from last night for nobody that heard it. But just wanted to give a shout out. Actually, Iowa will be playing tomorrow, and Jordan Bohannon from Iowa did something really neat in their regular season finale on Sunday night. He had a chance to break the school's consecutive free throw record, which is held by Chris Street, who sadly passed away in a car accident while he had the record. It was, real sad situation. And Bohannon intentionally missed the free throw in order to allow Street to keep the record. I thought it was really neat and a real good shout out to Chris Street. So props to Bohannon, and that's probably the best missed free throw I've ever seen in my life. So, but David, let me let you finish things out.
Yeah, well, to follow up just real quick before I get to my final thought on what Titel said about LeBron, I do think that that's kind of insulting to the NCAA to call them corrupt. They're not corrupt. They're just inept. Anyway, but I guess my final thought is I want to know why quarters are a thing. They make no sense. We shouldn't have them in not just basketball, but any sport. Like, what genius 100 years ago said, hey, you know what would be great if we counted down until the half was half over? Let's do that. Why are quarters a thing? And I don't really – I kind of like college basketball the way that it is now. None of the rules – really are all that appealing. I mean, I'll still watch it and I'll still live with it. And by the time they feel normal, I guess I'll get used to it again. But I don't see quarters happening if for no other reason than the women's game has quarters and are essentially 4 media timeouts per game because there's an under 5 and then there's another media timeout at the end of the quarter and then another under 5. So instead of the 5 that you get in the men's game, the 16, 12, 8, and 4, and the first called timeout of each half, you only have 3. And this is a television-driven business. I just don't think they're going to go to that model, but they shouldn't. I don't know why they continue to improve upon things that really are just fine the way that they are. And the other thing that makes me mad is Lee Del Vecchio is in favor of this, and it's happening, and he's enjoying that, and that bugs me. I do not like it when Lee Del Vecchio is happy.
Maybe we got to get Lee on one of these championship week video notebooks. Hopefully we'll see him at some point this next 2 weeks here. But I do want to thank everybody for joining us again tonight. We're going to be back tomorrow with some more trivia. And Dave, we got to fact check that answer, but I'm a little bit suspicious of that Duke answer. But
no, it's right. I mean, it came out of the envelope. So.
Okay. Yeah, well, hopefully Duke can break out of that streak and make the field this year. But on that note, I guess on behalf of David Griggs, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org, John Stalika, and John Teitel, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow night with more Video Notebook. Thanks a lot.